So, welcome in, everybody. We're so excited that you're here with us today. And we are going to be talking about how to help your students land their dream job leveraging LinkedIn. And this is a Rock Your Profile session where we're going to talk about how to do just that. So, first, I wanted to start off with this quote. Education is our passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to the people who prepare for it today. And that was something Malcolm X said. And I think it's so important for all of you because you are preparing students for tomorrow and you're doing it right now. So I want to quickly introduce myself before we dive in. My name is Jolda, and I lead LinkedIn's Rock Your Profile program. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar, Rock Your Profile is a program we have to educate a range of different folks, members, customers, partners, universities, students, around how do you build a great profile that tells your true professional story. And then once you've done that, how do you then leverage the rest of LinkedIn to go and connect to opportunity in whatever way that means to you? Because that means something different for every single person. So with that, I wanted to change up the way we're going to do this. And rather than having a presentation, which we will, we're going to have a little more of a conversation and lead with that. So I'm going to invite the wonderful Kim Rickards, a program manager on the Rock Your Profile team, in to chat with me a little bit about the difference between a profile versus a resume. Welcome in, Kim.
Thanks for having me here, Lauren. I'm excited to have this conversation with you. In advance of this conversation, I jotted down a few questions that's top of mind for students. So let's get started. A big question on the mind of students is, what is the difference between a LinkedIn profile and a resume? As an expert in this space, what do you think the key difference is?
So when you think about a resume, it usually gets customized to the job that you're going after. So meaning many times you're going to tailor that resume to each job that you apply to. So you want to emphasize certain skill sets, specific experience, qualifications that are important to have for the job that you want. So a resume is really speaking to those skills, qualifications, and accomplishments. With a LinkedIn profile, it's a little different. So the biggest differentiator is it's more of this dynamic digital portfolio that tells your story. So what I mean by that is in addition to highlighting your experience, your skills, and your accomplishments, your profile is also going to speak to your brand, who you are as a person, your mission, and how you really want to contribute in your professional career. And as you grow and develop in your career, your LinkedIn profile is going to evolve to tell your story as well.
Awesome. Now let's talk about audience. When you think about the type of audience a profile caters to versus a resume, what does that look like?
So again, when you think about a resume, you have a very specific audience that you're speaking to. And it's usually recruiters or hiring managers within a company where you're applying to a role. With a LinkedIn profile, it's really speaking to all potential employers, not just the ones where you're applying to a job. So keep in mind, anyone can visit your LinkedIn profile before connecting with you or considering you for a job. So that audience is much, much broader.
Lauren, many students will view this. And the goal of this conversation is to truly empower them to translate their school and work experience to their profile. From your perspective, how does experience show up on a resume versus a LinkedIn profile?
Such a good question. So on a LinkedIn profile, especially as a student, you're going to go into way more detail with your experience than you would on a resume. On your profile, you'll be able to add things like skills, recommendations, projects, interests, certifications, and so much more, which really gives you the ability to provide more context around both your work and your school experiences.
Perfect, Lauren. One of the advantages to a LinkedIn profile is that it is a living, breathing representation of you on the world's largest professional network. Can you speak a little bit more to this?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the best parts of a LinkedIn profile is that it allows other people in your professional community, as well as potential employers, to interact with you through your profile, to learn more about who you are and how you want to impact, and then to also be able to connect with you. Whereas a resume doesn't necessarily allow for all of those things. So thank you so much, Kim, for this conversation. Let's sum it up with a couple key takeaways. Your LinkedIn profile is different from your resume because it's a dynamic digital portfolio. And remember, it's going to constantly evolve as you grow and change in your career. It speaks to all potential employers, not just the ones you're applying to. So it caters to a much broader audience. It goes into more detail with things like skills, projects, interests, certifications, and more. And it allows other professionals and employers to interact with you, to learn more about who you are, and to contact you. And finally, it gives you credibility because your profile contains recommendations and endorsements. So now that we've talked about difference between profile and resume, let's get into some profile best practices. And to do that, we're going to start here with a wonderful woman, Michelle Obama. Your story is what you have, what you will always have. It is something to own. So I want all of you to keep that in mind, especially as you start empowering your students with the knowledge of LinkedIn, because they are going to leverage LinkedIn to really lean in and own their professional stories. So let's talk about some best practices in this space to build a great profile. First, with your students, you want to ensure that you're encouraging them to set their job preferences so they can discover their next opportunity. The way that you'll do that is they'll go to add profile section right under intro and select looking for a new job. When you go into that selection, this add job preferences will pop up and you can edit everything from job titles, locations, dates, and so on. You can also specify who can view it. So that if you want it viewed just by LinkedIn or also by LinkedIn and recruiters, that will change the visibility. If you opt in to have recruiters view it, you'll see that you'll have that hashtag open to work green photo stripe right across your profile photo so that recruiters instantly know these folks are searching for a job. Second big thing about a profile is photo, and you want to make sure that you encourage your students to take a great photo. Something as simple as a photo has a really big impact in that it gets you up to 21 times more profile views, up to 9 times more connection requests, and up to 36 times more messages. So a couple things to think about when you're updating your photo on LinkedIn. Use a background that isn't distracting. We say a neutral background or a blurred cityscape like the example that you see here. Have great lighting so that people can see you. Snap a high-res photo, and honestly, it doesn't have to be a professional headshot. You can do this at home with any smartphone or camera. Make sure the photo features just you, so no cropping out, no hover hands, that's never good. We just want to see you front and center. And then a pro tip is you can actually polish up your photo with LinkedIn's photo filters. So that will help you to get that extra polish so you have a photo that represents you. Another great feature that LinkedIn has, which is fairly new, is the ability to pronounce your name. And this falls right underneath your profile photo with the little speaker icon that you see here. Ensure others pronounce your name correctly and also make a great first impression as others reach out to you. So a couple of key things to keep in mind with this. First, you can only update this on mobile. So make sure you have the LinkedIn app installed on your phone and go there to record your name. Limit your name pronunciation recording to 10 seconds and also make sure you have limited background noise. Speak slowly, make sure you pronounce your name clearly, and hold the phone 4 inches from your mouth. Next, let's talk industry and location. Adding industry information can get you up to 9 times more profile views. Why is this important? Because over 300,000 people search by industry every single week on LinkedIn. So this is your opportunity to be found. Listing a location can help you receive up to 19 times more profile views. Not to mention, including the city you're based makes you up to 23 times more likely to be found. So go into your LinkedIn profile and make sure your industry information and location information is added. Next big thing is summary, and this is where a lot of people struggle. So I want to leave you with some key best practices in this space that will help you empower your students to lean in and build great summaries. Your summary is your opportunity to really introduce yourself and who you are on LinkedIn. So a couple things you want to think about. In terms of structure, you want 1 to 2 sentences that talk a little bit about who you are. Then you want about 3 to 5 sentences that talk about your experience, your top skills that you're bringing to the table, and key passions that you have so people can kind of get a feel for you. And then finally, 1 to 2 sentences about your future goals and how other members can engage with you. Now, a pro tip here, make sure you include a summary of at least 40 words because that means you'll be more likely to pop up in search results from recruiters. The last thing I'd leave you with summary is don't think that you have to do this alone. So remind your students to rely on other people to help them craft their summaries. These can be friends, family, teachers, other folks within their networks who know them really, really well. And they can simply sit down and have a conversation with that person, talk a little bit about themselves. And often others can kind of tease out some of these things around who we are, our skills, our passions better than we can. So remember, you aren't alone in this. Rely on that community of people to help you. Now let's get into work experience. So for your students, you want them to highlight relevant work experience. And you see the data here that reflects how important this is with regards to connection requests, profile views, and messages. Now for students, they may not yet have a lot of work experience. So what's really important is to have them really think about internships that they've held, jobs they've had, part-time jobs, maybe summer jobs that they have landed. In addition, if they don't have tons of experience, they can also think about activities that they've done in school. And if, for example, they were part of an organization like a student government association, it's great college experience to add to their profile and describe the impact that had. Whether it's leadership skills they gained, whether it's the ability to work with others like the school administration and collaborate, there's lots of great experience there that can translate to work experience. And in addition, profiles with 2 or more positions listed are up to 36 times more likely to be found by recruiters. So definitely encourage them to list out those different work experience positions they've held. Now, a bonus tip we would leave you with is it's great to talk about the day-to-day of what you did. What's even better is to describe what you accomplished, the results you delivered, or the impact you had. So make sure that you really think about that when you're encouraging your students to highlight their work experience on their profiles. Now let's talk rich media. So for those of you who don't know, rich media is anything visual that helps to bring your profile and the work that you've done to life. These can be things like photos, videos, website links, anything of that nature, PowerPoint presentations. And a big way that you'll be able to add rich media is in the featured section. Now, this pops up right at the top of your profile, and it gives you the ability to pin rich media content right to the top that you're extremely proud of. So again, it can be photos, presentations, and all the things we talked about earlier. In addition, it can also be things like a LinkedIn post that you posted or somebody else posted. It can be a LinkedIn article that you published. One of the biggest things I would recommend here, especially for students, is I hear a lot that they may not have yet rich media assets that are their own that they can add to their profiles, and that's okay. In that case, I would have them think back to an internship they did with a company. And if that company had specific marketing assets or general company assets that are approved to use externally, they may be able to leverage those, pin them to the featured section, and then there's an opportunity to add a description there. And within that description, they can talk a little bit about how that asset specifically fits into their story. You can do the same thing with school, right? If you have school assets or photos of specific events that you've done at school. So I would really encourage your students to think about that and how they can leverage rich media to bring their professional story to life. And finally, building credibility, which is so key to rounding out any story on LinkedIn. This is your opportunity to add skills and endorsements. Now you see the stats here, adding 5 or more skills helps you get up to 17 times more profile views. You have the ability to add a mix of tech and soft skills. So whatever the skills are in your specific desired area. Think about the in-demand skills, not just for right now, but what's going to be in demand down the road. And then skills that you've learned in or outside of school. It doesn't have to be all skills from work experience. Many times there's skills you've learned in school that translate beautifully to work experience. And finally, I would encourage your students, if there's specific jobs they're going after, pull up that job description, take a look at the list of skills within that description, and see how maybe they can play up some of those skills in their profiles so they can land that job that they ultimately want. We've talked about a lot, from the difference between a profile versus a resume, all the way through to best practices around building a great profile on LinkedIn. Now, let's talk about networking. First, I wanted to kickstart with some data. Did you know that over 50% of hires result from a personal connection? Not to mention, LinkedIn members are 4 times more likely to get hired when they're referred into a role. This really speaks to the power of networking on LinkedIn. So I wanted to invite in Kim one final time to talk about best practices to build your community on LinkedIn. Welcome back, Kim.
Thanks, Lauren, for having me back. I just wanted to jump in quickly for us to discuss how students can successfully build their LinkedIn network. Students, get ready for more gems from this LinkedIn profile professional. Lauren, we know relationships matter, especially when networking and building your LinkedIn community. One big question many students ask is, who should I connect with?
Yeah, so for students, we always recommend start simple. Encourage your students to think about friends, family members, teachers who may make sense for them to network with. In addition, if your students have work experience, like an internship, for example, recommend they connect with previous managers, colleagues, and mentors.
Another big question that comes to mind from many students is connection request. What are some best practices you'd recommend for students when it comes to sending an invitation for someone to connect with them on LinkedIn?
This is such an important one. So I always recommend customize your connection request. Never use the generic template. Take the time to show the person that you're connecting with that you put some thought into networking. In addition, be clear about why you want to be added to that person's network and also how they can help you.
Absolutely. And I really want this conversation to help students begin their networking on LinkedIn. From your perspective, Lauren, when is an ideal time for students to start building their LinkedIn community?
Yeah, I love it. There's no better time than right now. So, the biggest thing I'd recommend here is start building your network before you actually need it. One of the biggest mistakes that I see a lot of students make is they try to begin networking right when they need a job, and that's not going to help you too much. So, instead, start building that network long before you graduate or you start applying for jobs so that it's there for you and really ready to tap in when you need it most. In addition, I would also recommend focusing on quality of network versus quantity of network. I think that a network full of tons of people you don't know, it doesn't add a whole lot of value for you. But a network with less people that you actually know well can work wonders for you. So when you think about building a high quality network, couple of tips I would leave you with. First, curate your network for where you are, but also where you want to go. Simply ask yourself, do I know the right people to help me where I am right now and down the road? And if the answer is no, then curate your network and change that. Second is create your connection criteria. So don't just accept general connection requests from anyone. Build in criteria to help you maintain a high quality network. And I'll give you an example of that. For me, you have to meet 3 criteria when joining my network on LinkedIn. First is I have to have met you either in person or virtually. Second is you have to customize your connection request to me. You can't send the generic LinkedIn template. And third is you have to tell me why you want to be added to my network. If you do all those 3 things, I accept you into my network, and that helps me maintain a network of high quality on LinkedIn. And finally, get familiar with the difference between connections versus followers. Connections are really for people you know. You should never be accepting a connection request from someone that you don't know. Followers are a little different, and they're for people you don't know, but maybe you want them to follow your activity across LinkedIn. So keep in mind the big difference between the two.
Thanks so much, Lauren, for answering these questions. This has been great, and I hope this conversation empowers students to connect on LinkedIn intentionally.
Thanks, Kim, for joining us. So let's sum up some key takeaways around building your community on LinkedIn from that conversation with Kim. First, connect to the right people. These can be friends, family, teachers, mentors, colleagues, and start simple. Next, customize your connection request. Be clear about how people can really help you. Start networking before you need it, not when you need it. Curate for where you are now, but also where you want to be in the future. Create your connection criteria. You saw the example with mine. Build in your connection criteria so that you maintain that quality versus quantity. And again, remember, high quality is always more important, and know the difference between connections versus followers. Connections for people you know, followers who you don't, but who you want to follow your activity across LinkedIn. So finally, I wanted to leave you with some key next steps to really empower your students to lean in and leverage LinkedIn. First, encourage your students to review their profiles, update key sections to tell their story, reflect their experience, and also showcase their skills. Have them identify 5 new people to connect with and add to their LinkedIn networks. Support your students to select 3 new people to ask for an informational interview and then help them reach out. And don't forget, we have some great resources for your students, from job searching to building out a great LinkedIn profile to LinkedIn learning resources. It's all here for you to share with your students. Finally, I want to say a huge and heartfelt thank you for spending your time with us today. I hope this was helpful, and I hope that you have the ability to empower your students to go after whatever that dream job is for them, especially as we're in these really crazy times. So remember, you've got this. Thank you so much.